fellow professionals. Now we are starting the last in this series. Of course, next week we have a panel discussion. So I would request Engineer Shrikant Chanal, who is the coordinator of this entire series, to say a few words as opening statement.
Thank you, sir. I heartily welcome all the participants, my fellow engineers, civil engineers, to this 10th session of this webinar series on professionalism in civil engineering, organized by Bangalore Center, Association of Consulting Civil Engineers. Friends, it gives me an immense pleasure in welcoming all of you for the 10th session. So far, we have listened all the parameters of professionalism, like how the professionalism issues are related to the building safety, building bylaws, then how the building failures, the relation between those two, and unprofessionalism practice in government organizations, how the non-civil engineers are performing the duties of a civil engineer, and then what the disputes regarding our profession, engineers' competence, then our industry readiness for the civil engineers' employability. Then we heard about the model building bylaws, how it is going to affect the civil engineers, and what are the terms that future we are to be called by, and then what the NBC says about civil engineering profession, and how so far the system has collapsed or the system failure results in the demolition of views buildings, where Anil Joseph mentioned about the Supreme Court impact on the demolition of many apartments in Kerala. So last session we heard about how the civil engineering was there and presently, and how the future should be by Professor Mahesh Tandon. And now, after hearing all the issues, now it is the time to listen what we should have, how we should go ahead, and if we put it in this form, how it is going to suit us, or how it is going to take us to the in the right direction. To talk about this, we have our very senior and well-versed, seasoned engineer, very senior engineer, Mr. Engineer D. Ranganath, and who is also the backbone and solid rock, I always call him, behind all our ACC activities, specifically this webinar also. And he is very instrumental in many of the bylaw issues, whether it is building bylaws or our association bylaws or our NBC laws and so many other things. And to discuss more about all these issues and how we should have a particular regulation, and he is the right man to talk about how we should be regulated and how the civil engineering profession should be taken forward. So he is going to speak about it, and to talk about him, our introduction will be done by the other person, and I am not going to deal much about him. And after this his speech, there will be snippets by Ultratech on some gunneting of the concreting kind of a thing, a new technology they are bringing, and we'll listen. And after that, we'll take up the question and answer, and then Girish will give brief about the today's talk. So with this, I will give it back to Dr. Kalgal.
Okay, thank you, Shrikant. One small correction, the snippet is on pumpable gun grade grout and not on gunniting. That will be given by Amrendra Surve of Ultratech. Now, may I request the Secretary of Bangalore Center, Mr. Ajit Kumar Mugdum, to introduce the stalwart of this evening, Engineer D. Ranganath.
Thank you, sir. I'm very happy to introduce our senior member, a guide, and a ringmaster, Engineer Ranganath Devappa. He is consulting structural engineer and a builder, designing and executing civil engineering projects on a turnkey basis from conceptual design to a completion, all under one roof of Build Marquee Engineers LLP, which is his name of the company. Engineer Rangnath has completed his bachelor's degree in civil engineering from University of Visvesvaraya College of Engineering, Bengaluru, MTech in engineering mechanics from IIT Madras, Chennai, and MS in structural engineering from Kansas State University, USA. Engineer Rangnath is rendering his professional service to the society from 1985 onwards, providing a structural design for varied buildings that includes residential, commercial, industrial, hospital layouts, warehouses, etc. He rendered professional service in design and supervision of tunnels across the national highway for Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru, adopting punchless technology. Since 2005, Engineer Rangnath has been providing total solution to projects on a turnkey concept and executing residential apartments, commercial complexes, warehouses, residential and commercial buildings. He is a member of various institutions and groups. He is a member of Institution of Engineers India, member of Instruct, fellow member of Association Consulting Civil Engineer India, fellow member of Indian Concrete Institute, fellow member of Institute of Valuers, chartered engineer and registered valuer. Engineer Rangnath is an active fellow member of Association Consulting Civil Engineer India, rendering valuable services in growth of association by being a part of the governing council member. He's an eminent speaker also. I heard him. Thank you very much, sir. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, stage is yours, Ranganath.
Thank you, Dr. Kalagan. Thank you, Mr. Secretary Ajit Kumar, for your wonderful introduction. Diksha, can you? Yeah, I think you shared, right? 1 minute. I'll just share my screen. Put this away. Okay. Professionalism in Civil Engineering. Online webinar series organized by Association Consulting Civil Engineers India, Bangalore Center. And today's presentation is a model civil engineering bill. Very good evening, friends. On the outset, I would like to congratulate the office bearers of ACCI Bangalore Center for coining this one-of-its-kind webinar series that takes a fresh look at protecting the rights and interests of civil engineering fraternity. In today's presentation, I'm making an attempt to highlight the importance of civil engineering profession for the growth of the country in particular and the society at large. I will also be highlighting certain lacunae in the current systems and the urgent need for promulgating a parliamentary act exclusively for civil engineering profession. Civil engineering technology is the core engineering sector that contributes towards sustainable development of a society and one of the primary contributors to the economy of a country. It's therefore natural and very essential for any country to create a mechanism for regulating all activities of this crucial industry, which is the second most important sector in India, next only to agriculture, for a healthy and systematic growth of the nation as a whole. The construction sector is envisaged to play a powerful role in economic growth in addition to producing structures that add to productivity and quality of life. Since construction is labor intensive, when the sector is working at full capacity, large sections of the nation's workforce are active. Civil engineering has a significant role in the life of every human being, though one may not truly sense its importance in our daily routine. The footprint of civil engineering profession can be felt right from the safe haven of homes in which we reside. Begin the day with a warm shower with water delivered through a water supply system, including a well-designed network of pipes, water treatment plant, and other numerous associated services. The network of roads on which we drive while proceeding to school or work, the huge structural bridges we come across, and the tall buildings where we work all have been designed and constructed by civil engineers. Even the benefits of electricity we use are available to us through the contribution of civil engineers who constructed the towers for the transmission lines. In fact, no sphere of life may be identified that does not include the contribution of civil engineering. The importance of civil engineering in our daily life is very obvious and inevitable. Some of the broad issues that influence the growth and sustainability of civil engineering profession are civil engineering education, internships and job-specific training, continuing education program, and last but not the least, that spark of passion in every person involved in the construction to achieve the best. Regarding education in civil engineering, our esteemed speaker, Dr. Arvind Galagali, has already discussed on the subject extensively. I would refrain from duplicating the thoughts again. However, I would like to highlight some of the major problems in Indian education. Dilution of the syllabus with respect to industry needs, lack of quality teachers, lack of innovation and research, faulty education system, lack of skill-based education, disregard of essential soft skills, and most importantly, lack of industry-academia interaction. I will not talk about the first four of these points. I would like to briefly talk about the lack of skill-based education. Skill-based education is an immediate need. Engineering students need to have hands-on training on the basis of the problems they are likely to encounter in the real world. One of the major problems facing the fresh graduates is their insufficient understanding of basic concepts, the lack of in-depth understanding of technical information, lack of client handling skills, and insufficient knowledge across domains are the major skill gaps in the area. And there are, in today's world, there are soft skills which are very essential. These soft skills have become very important in the present job industry, but they are routinely ignored in educational institutes. This is perhaps the trickiest issue. The lack of ability of the individual to deliver his views effectively at the interview leads to rejection of even the most brilliant candidate. This is because training institutes do not make an effort to ensure that the candidates develop their skills in a wholesome manner, which can contribute towards client handling and team communication skills. This should come right from the schooling days, right from the school into the college, into the universities. I think this is one important aspect that I think we need to focus on when we take on curriculum designing. The government of India needs to sit up and take notice of these issues that are threatening the very future and stability of our country. Raising the skill levels properly equipping the workforce, providing improved welfare, and ensuring greater safety on sites will motivate workers and empower them to raise qualitative productivity. Now I come to industry-academia interaction, which I consider as the most important one, which is lacking today. Industry-academia interaction and collaboration is the order of the day. This collaboration helps industry provide internships, training, and scholarships at different levels of academic qualifications, which benefit the students and the industry alike. The academia, through its close interaction with the industry, can share its immense wealth of theoretical knowledge and research on the subject to benefit the industry in sharpening their quality, safety, and productivity, thus contributing jointly towards overall healthy growth of socio-economic standing of the society. In a nutshell, the need of the hour, as the construction industry undergoes a paradigm shift, is for our youth to be guided on the right path and trained based on the creative possibilities this industry offers. This is the only way to ensure that more skilled workforce enters the construction industry, thereby enhancing the national development and economic growth. And this is another important one as far as the career is concerned, as far as the civil engineering profession is concerned, and the industry as a whole is concerned: continuing education. Now, taking up a job in the industry and settling down is not the end of learning for an individual. In fact, it is the beginning of a greater learning. Civil engineering is a profession which has contributed enormously to human development and has always faced challenges of the future, that is, continuously improving the quality of life, advancing civilization, and providing health and safety to the public. Revolutionary advancements in technology have provided invaluable tools to civil engineers for understanding behavior of materials, structures, and environment, as well as analysis and design of more efficient, cost-effective, and creative projects. These developments, along with the increase in world population and heightened expectations of the public, are challenging civil engineers every day with increasingly complex and multifaceted projects, ranging from building a stable bridge to handling changes in global environment to constructing international space stations. In order to stay competent in this competitive market and to acquire new knowledge and skills that are required to face the challenges, civil engineers need continuous enhancement in their knowledge and skills. Therefore, continuing education and training of civil engineers have become essential for meeting the needs of the civil engineering profession. Engineers participate in continuing education programs for many reasons, ranging from motivation to enhance their careers to satisfying mandatory requirements. All reasons for participating in continuing education programs tie to a primary reason: staying current and competent. Although civil engineering is considered one of the oldest engineering disciplines, factors such as population growth, globalization, advances in information technology, diversity in society, developments in the new construction techniques and equipments, increased public awareness have created a more complex world which poses unique challenges for civil engineers. These changes demand that today's civil engineers must have broad technical knowledge base and skills beyond the traditional discipline-specific technical knowledge. Over the next 50 years, IT tools may considerably change the way in which engineers carry out each stage of the engineering process. But one can be sure that the process itself will not change, and that thinking skills will be every bit as valuable as they are today. I would like to repeat, because I consider this as very important, the continuing education. I would like to repeat. In order for civil engineers to remain current and competent in their technical fields and to acquire additional skills to lead and manage more complex projects, they will need to go through continuing education throughout their career. Now, let us take a glance at some of the statistical facts that are generated out of the current functioning of civil engineering profession. Each year, output of fresh civil engineering graduates in India are in excess of 5 lakhs. Assuming an active career lifespan of a civil engineer to be about 25 years, it could be more. But for the argument, if you take 25 years, at any given point of time, we will have about 1.25 crores of civil engineers in the market. India has third largest construction industry in the world. Civil engineering construction is the second largest employment sector, only after agriculture. Nearly 50% of our country's annual planned outlay is reserved for civil engineering construction. This is interesting. Every rupee investment in civil construction yields in 0.8 rupees increment in GDP, as against 0.2 rupees increment in agriculture and 0.14 rupee increment in manufacturing sectors. Civil engineering construction sector, as compared to other sectors, for the same amount of investments, creates 4.7 times increase in income and 7.76 times increase in employment. These are interesting statistics. For your information, these are all taken from the statistical department of the Government of India. And as per RBI September 2019 report, Indian government is planning to build 100 million houses between 2020 and 2025 with an expenditure of nearly $1 trillion US. That's about 111 lakh crore rupees. That amounts to nearly 10,500 crores of rupees per day. And mind you, these figures do not include the investments made in private sector. And by 2025, civil engineering construction industry will be contributing to nearly 13% of the GDP from government sector alone. This clearly indicates the enormity of our industry, the kind of opportunities that we are visualizing. At least the government is projecting how it's going to go forward, and it is incredible the way it's projected. Well, just think about it. If at all a well-conceived mechanism is formulated to regulate the civil engineering profession and therefore the industry as a whole, the statistical figures projected would be rocketing to much higher levels. I'd like to take you through a quick look at how the industry is functioning under the current system of working in the absence of a regulating mechanism for civil engineering profession. First, quackery in civil engineering construction. Civil engineering industry is flooded with individuals having inappropriate qualifications and many having no qualifications, who are causing a chaos in the industry, compromising on safety and resulting in collapse of buildings and huge wastage of materials, labor, and finance. Non-civil engineers performing duties of civil engineers, that is, quackery in government departments. There are a number of cases where non-civil engineers are heading several government departments as well as civil engineering projects, performing the duties of civil engineers. Ultimately, such unprofessional engineers will also be responsible in framing of our all-important building bylaws and regulations that control the civil engineering profession as well as the construction industry. In fact, many of these cases are there with Bangalore Center. Chairman Mr. Shrikant Chanal, through Right to Information Act, he has collected a number of replies from the government departments themselves, indicating which department is having non-civil engineers heading or performing the civil engineering duties. And we are witnessing collapse of buildings, polluted environment, very poor maintenance, lack of waste management systems, etc. The list can go on like this. And there are many reasons. A few reasons I have highlighted earlier. And next is absence of mandatory continuing education. Like I said earlier, it's very essential for civil engineers, both in government and private sectors, to upgrade their knowledge and skills in view of galloping advances in technology across the world. In the present system, unfortunately, this is lacking. Absence of mechanism to fix responsibility. Again, in the current scenario in India, there is no mechanism to regulate and fix responsibility of unethical and inferior quality of services on a civil engineer and bar him from rendering professional services. All these mentioned factors have actually lowered the morale of civil engineering profession. The future of civil engineering, therefore, seems gloomy, with best of brains moving away to other professions. The engineering degree does not necessarily equip engineers and technologists with the requisite competence and integrity. Such competence can be acquired after graduation through a process of intensive training and sustained through a process of continuing education and upgradation of skills. A mechanism needs to be set up to ensure that every engineer and technologist whose decisions impact the health and safety of the society goes through this process and is tested for having acquired the requisite skills and is accorded a status of professional civil engineer. Anytime an engineer or technologist does not measure up to the high level of technical competence, professional honesty, and integrity, this status of professional civil engineer is withdrawn. Such a mechanism of regulation of the profession is possible only with the help of an act of parliament. Enactment of Civil Engineering Bill will create a mechanism by which all civil engineering professionals across the country will be regulated in the system of their rendering professional services for the effective growth of the Indian economy. Friends, those were a few of my thoughts on the way our industry is working and the potential it has in taking our country to much greater heights. I mentioned the need for promulgating a Civil Engineering Act Having traversed through the existing systems of the way our civil engineering is driven, I'm confident that most of you would agree with me that systematic regulation of our profession through a statutory control will enhance the status of our profession and take our country to the top. Let's take a quick look again at the international and the national scenario. World over, in most of the countries, which include Australia, Canada, Japan, Malaysia, New Zealand, Pakistan, Philippines, Sri Lanka, South Africa, Singapore, Tanzania, USA, all these countries, their engineering profession is governed by an act of the government and they are regulated. Whereas here in India, civil engineering profession, being the oldest and largest of the professions, with more than 1.25 crores of practicing civil engineers, is yet to be recognized by the Indian Parliament. To our utter surprise, professions that are much smaller in size, such as chartered accountants and architects, each having about 1.25 lakhs of professionals, have already been regulated by an act of the Parliament. Here is a short list of professions recognized by the Indian Parliament. Chartered Accountants Act 1949, Indian Nursing Council Act 1949, Indian Medical Council Act 1956, Cost and Works Accountants Act 1959, Advocate Act 1961, Architects Act 1972, Company Secretaries Act 1980, Agriculture Graduates Act. I could not get the year. Now, let us just, this is not the first time anybody has thought about engineers bill. In India, it is going on for some time now. I'd like to just like to take you quickly through the history of engineers bill in India. In February 1966, Planning Commission set up a committee under the chairmanship of S.G. Barve to study the problems relating to technical consultancy services and come out with recommendations. In order to develop the profession on healthy lines and to avoid undesirable elements or practices, the committee opined in its report, which it submitted during 1970, that there should be a all India institution or association to lay down proper standards of education, experience, capability, capacity, etc. The committee recommended that a legislation should be undertaken to make the institution a legal entity parallel to the Institute of Chartered Accountants. But the Barve report went into cold storage. In 2001, there was some interest raised to draft an engineers bill. Engineering Council of India, ECI, was established in April 2002 as an apex body of engineering profession in India by coming together of a large number of professional organizations and institutions of engineers to work for the advancement of engineering profession in various disciplines and for enhancing the image of engineers in society by focusing on quality and accountability of engineers. Association of Consulting Civil Engineers India was one of the founding members of ECI. Today, there are 33 Indian engineering professional associations or institutions as members, representing practically all major engineering streams and with 8 associated government departments nominees on its board. One of the first tasks taken up by ECI was to draft an engineers bill. ACCEI contributed to a large extent in drafting of the bill. The final draft was submitted by ECI to MHRD department for processing and forwarding to the Parliament to enact the bill as an act. In the meanwhile, there were disagreements raised within the engineering community. Institution of Engineers India, formed in 1920, opposed an engineers bill to regulate the engineering profession, as they, being a royal charter, claimed to be the regulating body in India. The government stalled the processing of engineers bill, directing the engineering community to come to a consensus before the bill can be taken up again. Again, the bill went into cold storage. Now, in 2018, upon requests made to the Prime Minister by several leading engineers, including engineer E. Sridharan, the issue of engineers bill was opened up again. AICTE was entrusted with the task of forming a committee to draft a fresh bill by the government. The draft bill is currently in the MHRD department, waiting to be processed. ACCI and several other associations and groups of civil engineers have held a series of meetings and given representations to the government requesting for hastening the process of moving the engineers bill in the Indian Parliament. Okay, friends, that's about the brief history I wanted to share with you. I would like to just express a few thoughts of mine. I fully support the ongoing efforts for a professional engineering bill encompassing all of the engineering community to be taken up by the Parliament and enacted at the earliest. In addition to this, I would like to draw your kind attention to another aspect that need to be looked at closely and acted upon immediately. As one can clearly see, of all the engineering disciplines, civil engineering is the most important in terms of its contribution to the society and the country's economy, and is the most complex, with unqualified persons and non-professionals flooding the profession and taking crucial technical decisions which have been deterrent to the society. I strongly feel that if at all there is an industry to be regulated on urgent basis for the good of the country and the society, it is the Civil Engineers Bill that need to be addressed. The Professional Engineering Act will help in regulating the entire engineering community, whereas the Civil Engineering Act will address and regulate the specific issues of the society with a greater focus. Hence, my stress is on a Civil Engineering Act in addition to Professional Engineering Act. Friends, I have made a small attempt to drafting a civil engineering bill and would like to put it across to you. This is a preliminary draft in a very nascent stage, which will take an appropriate final shape with all of us professionals' further efforts and contribution. An act to regulate the practice of civil engineering profession in India. Title of the Act and definition of terms. Section 1. This Act shall be known as the Civil Engineering Act. Section 2. Definition of terms. In this Act, unless the context otherwise requires, Indian Council of Civil Engineers means the body constituted by Section 3 of this Act. Certificate of registration means the certificate issued by the Council granting the privilege of practicing as a professional civil engineer. Graduate civil engineer means a person who holds a duly accredited graduate degree or equivalent in civil engineering or technology from a recognized university / deemed university or an AICTE recognized institution, or has acquired a qualification recognized by a state government or by the Government of India as equivalent. Diploma civil engineer means a person who holds a duly accredited diploma qualification or equivalent in civil engineering or technology from a recognized institute or polytechnic, or has acquired a qualification recognized by a state government or by the Government of India as equivalent. The practice / activities of civil engineering within the meaning and intent of this Act shall embrace services from conceptual to implementation of civil engineering projects that include the following disciplines. I would like to just go through whatever I have grouped together. Architectural services, building materials and construction equipments, building services, computer applications in civil engineering, construction technology, demolition technology, environmental engineering, forensic civil engineering, geotechnical engineering, hydraulic engineering and hydrology, irrigation engineering, marine structures and offshore engineering, project management, public health engineering, quality auditing, quantity surveying, rehabilitation engineering, retrofitting, structural engineering, sustainable engineering, surveying and remote sensing, technical auditing, town planning, transportation engineering, value engineering, valuation. The enumeration of any work in this section shall not be construed as excluding any other work requiring civil engineering knowledge and application. Nodal ministry means Ministry of Human Resources Development, MHRD, of the Government of India. Practice means any service or creative work, adequate performance of which requires engineering and technology education, training, and experience in the application of special knowledge of biological, chemical, mathematical, physical, and engineering sciences to such service. The service shall make an effective use of natural, financial, and human resources. It includes, but is not limited to, consultation, studies, investigations, evaluation, conceptualization, planning, design, production, execution and supervision, management of engineering projects and systems, operation and management of manufacturing and allied units and other systems. Teaching along with research and consultancy in any civil engineering discipline in an academic institution or research organization shall be considered as part of practice. Professional Graduate Civil Engineer, PGCE, means a graduate civil engineer duly registered under this Act. Professional Diploma Civil Engineer, PDCE, means a diploma civil engineer duly registered under this Act. Registering institution means a professional institution authorized by the Council to register civil engineers on its behalf as per provisions of this Act. Regulation means a regulation made under this Act by the Council as amended from time to time. Rule means a rule made under this Act by the central government. The chairman means the person elected as a chairman of the Council. Secretary General means the person appointed as a Secretary General of the Council. Professional affiliate means an incorporated body designated as such by the Council. Register or registers means the National Register of Professional Civil Engineers. Registrant means an individual who registers with the Council. Specifications means standards for professional civil engineering competence describing the requirements for registration. Now we come to section 3. There could be many more definitions that need to be put in. I have put in these definitions, and probably as we progress further, maybe some more are going to be added to that. Under section 3, we have a preamble. Civil engineering technology is a core engineering sector that contributes towards sustainable development of a society and one of the chief contributors to the economy of a country. Not regulating of civil engineering industry will lead to unqualified individuals and those from other professions who have been working in civil engineering without necessary qualification. Currently, with no regulation, civil engineering industry is in chaos with no control or standard systematic approach for implementation of various activities in the industry, thus breaching on the basics of professionalism, moral, and ethical necessities. All civil engineers after their graduation shall be put through a process of intensive training and sustained through a process of continuing education and upgradation of skills to attain the requisite competence and integrity as desired in the industry. A mechanism to regulate every civil engineer whose decision impact the health and safety of the society shall be implemented periodically, testing the individuals for having acquired the requisite skills. The successful civil engineers will be accorded with the status of professional graduate civil engineer or professional diploma civil engineer, as the case may be. Anytime a professional civil engineer does not measure up to the high levels of competence, professional honesty, and integrity, the status of PGCE or PDCE will be withdrawn. Such a mechanism or regulation of the profession is possible only with the help of an Act of Parliament. In furtherance of intent and purpose of the legislature, the practice of civil engineering is hereby declared a learned profession to be practiced and regulated as such, and its practitioners in the Indian Union shall be held accountable to the state and members of the public by high professional standards. This Act therefore seeks to constitute a statutory body with the responsibility to oversee registration of an individual as a professional civil engineer, renewal of the said registration and its termination, regulate professional conduct of PGCE and PDCE. The general purpose of this Act. The Act seeks to set up a statutory body, the Indian Council of Civil Engineers, hereinafter referred to as a council, that will ensure that all civil engineering activities are performed by qualified persons and in a manner which facilitates sustainable development, use of optimal methodology, and ensures safety and welfare of the people at large. Currently, All India Council for Technical Education, AICTE, a premier body in technical education, is regulating the engineering education in most of the institutions across India. It's in the process of fine-tuning the system to match with the new Education Policy 2020. Indian Council of Civil Engineers and AICTE will collaborate for setting up competitive curriculum in civil engineering periodically. The Indian Council of Civil Engineers. Constitution of the Indian Council of Civil Engineers. The central government shall, by notification in the official gazette, constitute with effect from such date as may be specified in the notification, a statutory body to be known as the Indian Council of Civil Engineers, which shall be a body corporate having perpetual succession and a common seal with power to acquire, hold, and dispose of properties, both movable and immovable, and to contract and may, by that name, sue or be sued. The Indian Council of Civil Engineers will ensure that civil engineering activities are performed by qualified persons and in a manner which facilitates sustainable development, use of optimal methodology, and the safety and welfare of the people at large. It will maintain internationally recognized standards of competence and commitment to the civil engineering profession. The head office of the council shall be either in Delhi or at a place as specified by central government by notification in the official gazette. The council shall consist of members as specified below. MHRD, Secretary of Higher Education, 1 number. CPWD, 1 number. Railways, 1 number. AICTE, 2 numbers. BIS, Civil Engineering, 2 numbers. State government representatives, 1 from each of the states, 28 numbers, and registered professional engineers by election. This we have made it equal to all the numbers put together, what I have indicated there. Hence, 37 numbers of professional engineers who are registered are going to be part of the council. The chairman and vice chairman of the council shall be elected by the council members from among themselves. An executive committee shall be formed to implement council's decisions and oversee the day-to-day affairs of the council, with chairman and vice chairman being ex officio members and 8 other members elected by the council from among its members. The council may constitute other committees for such general or special purposes as it deems fit to carry forward the profession under this Act. Registration of civil engineers. Preparation and maintenance of register. The central government shall, as soon as may be, cause to be prepared in the manner hereinafter provided a register of professional civil engineers for India. The council shall, upon its constitution, assume the duty of maintaining the register in accordance with the provisions of this Act. Separate registers shall be maintained for professional graduate civil engineers and professional diploma civil engineers. The register shall include the following particulars: full name with date of birth, nationality and residential address, qualification for registration and the date on which obtained that qualification and the authority which conferred it, the date of admission to the register, professional address, and such other particulars as may be prescribed by rules. Friends, I have made a very small beginning in drafting this civil engineers bill. Many more aspects need to be looked into, discussed, debated, and final statements that will nurture the profession's interest should be included. The rules and regulations comprising, say, the registration procedure, maintenance of registers, codes of ethics, conduct of elections, administrative staff, registering officers across the country, and modus operandi of their functioning, fee structure, renewal process, continuing education and grading, conduct of exams, if any, etc., have not been dealt with here, as the same shall be framed after the council comes into existence. This is an ongoing process, and in a very, very primitive stage, I request the civil engineering community to contribute further in enhancing the contents of the bill and join hands in furthering this cause. With this, I conclude my presentation, and I thank each one of you personally for patiently listening, debating within yourself, and forming an impression on the subject matter. I appeal to all for joining hands for taking this forward, and those of you who may be critical on the topic may please forward your constructive criticism, which will go a long way in reshaping our thoughts. Thanks to you all.
Thank you, Ranganath. So a lot of food for thought. Now, before, of course, we get into the question answer session, as usual, we will be having snippets from Ultratech. I request Diksha to give co-host status to Amarendra Surve. Amarendra Surve is online, so you would like to present.
Done, sir.
Amarendra, you can start.
Yes, sir. Good evening, all, and thank you very much for giving this opportunity to present the on the subject. The subject given is the pumpable gun-grade mortar. Generally, let us at first understand why the gun-grade mortar can be used. It is currently the aluminum framework, which is the fast-paced construction technique which offers strength and durability to the building. How it works, like setting up the wall reinforcing steel, placement of aluminum formwork, pouring the concrete. So it is that easy. And the benefits of using aluminum shuttering is the highly durable, reduces construction time, reduces the requirement of skilled labor, smooth finish, and negligible maintenance required, and the limited wastage. But along with this aluminum good finish, we also get the tie rod holes. The tie rod holes, what are the tie rod holes? Let us understand that first. During the construction, small metal rods called tie rods are inserted into the concrete form in order to hold the inner and outer forms together and provide the structure with which the concrete can be poured. After construction, they are usually either removed entirely, leaving a hole. So those are the tie rod holes. So are these tie rod holes a challenge in the aluminum construction? Yes, the number of holes will be more in vertical walls. It is observed that around 4,000 to 5,000 holes are being seen in a particular floor. And the holes are on the outer wall as well, which is in direct contact with the rain. Holes should be directly grouted by non-shear material, thus making them a fully compacted filled holes. So the tie rod holes filling, currently the method used is the manual filling of grout, which is having a disadvantages like labor intensive, high labor cost, time consuming. Completely filling of tie rod hose is still uncertain, and thus allowing the water to seep in. The chances of leakage is very high. The system what we are offering is the grout material which can be filled with the gun, which is a specially designed material which requires very low labor, speedy completion of work due to convenience of application, provides watertight joints or the holes, negligible wastage. Let us understand some more areas of application where the pumpable mortar can be used, the gun-grade mortar can be used. It is for the pointing work, for filling gaps between doors and walls, filling gaps of masonry and beams. So the material which has been offered by Ultratech, it is the PowerGrout gun-grade mortar. The material is ready to use cement-based polymer enriched pumpable gun-grade mortar, which is to be filled in the gun and directly injected. I'll just play a small video. Now, this material is, though it is available in cementitious color, but for the application use and to recognize whether the material is been fully filled in the tie rod holes, it is also available in pigmented color. So currently in blue color it is available. So from far away distance also we can notice whether the material has been filled completely or not. Advantages of using this material: it gives you a waterproof joints, non-shrink self-curing material, better binding to substrate, uniform and smooth finish, easy to apply, faster completion of work. Now, if we talk in terms of output, it is the 250 number of holes around can be filled in a day by this material, that is PowerGrout gun-grade mortar. compared to 80 to 100 number of holes by conventional method. The conventional method, it is just like pushing the material by the thumb. Wherein with this gun, it is the complete compaction and complete through and through material is being filled with this gun. The coverage of filling holes is 26 to 28 number of holes can be filled per kg of 6 mm dia and 150 mm depth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amar. That was a new and unique application. Now, I'm sure Ranganath is ready. Must have had his cup of coffee or water or whatever.
Yes, sir.
So, as is the practice, we will invite people to raise their hand if they want to ask questions, and I will call out who will have to unmute and ask questions. And after that, of course, we will take up those questions which have come in the chat box as well. So those who want to ask questions, please remember that one question is permitted per person at this point of time. Later, if time permits, we will allow more than one question. So the first question is from Girish. Girish HR, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Kalgal. Thanks, Rangnath sir, for the excellent lecture. We have always been talking of challenges to civil engineers and most importantly, the number of civil engineers that are coming out every year on year. But so far, I think same intensity of study has not been made with respect to the actual availability of jobs for civil engineers. Point one. Point two is that even in the future, whether so many civil engineers, as you rightly mentioned, 1.25 crores is mind-boggling. In fact, it is more than the population of quite a few countries in the world. So do we require so many civil engineers? And if we don't require them, what are the other branches in which we can divert the students who are coming up? So is there a survey made which is authentic on availability of civil engineering jobs? Because today we find a lot of civil engineers who are very capable and qualified. They do not have jobs. Your comment, sir.
Thank you, Girish. They actually, unemployment in civil engineering is also, there is more in civil engineering also. The problem is the right kind of people are not being trained and put into the market. Like I showed some of the statistics what the government has given up. There are huge projects that are being planned out. Whatever civil engineers we have there, don't think that is enough for the kind of projects that is being envisaged. And when the industry is going to be regulated, there's going to be more systematic approach to the construction aspects of civil engineering projects, which will definitely create more opportunities. The only thing what we are lacking is training of these skilled people or skilling these people. And invariably, when the fresh graduates come out into the market, when they go into the industry, they find that they're lost because they are unable to have a connect between what they have studied and what's being executed. The industry people are not having the patience and the time and the money to invest on training these people. I'm not talking about all the industries. Some of the industries do train, but majority of them do not. While there is a gap between the industry academia interaction, the academia is not fully aware of the industry requirements, and even if they are, probably they are not training the students to come up to that particular level. And skilling the students is very important. And what is happening? People are going to other professions, mainly because they're lost. And another important aspect is pay package in civil engineering is not as much as what other professions are giving. I should not generalize, mainly the information technology sector. And looking at that, many people are getting attracted. And even there, without qualification, many people have just taken the training from those IT industries and they are absorbed there. I think if we train, where we are heading is something enormous. The way we can think in civil engineering, IT industry is nothing, I should say. If at all, we can plan it and properly make it grow.
So I think survey is something which we need to also take up.
Yeah, surveying, yeah, that is part and parcel. And have
Thank you, sir.
information.
Thank you.
If we dig it out, maybe we do get, because during my research, I did find a lot of private research organizations having got a lot of information about unemployment and the reasons also why such things are happening. And they also have projected huge kind of projects that are there where civil engineers are required. Hence, unless we train these people, I think we may not head to such great extent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranganath. AK Jain Saab wants to ask a question.
First
Jain
of all, I thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Sam. My first question to you, sir, is that you have elaborately and laboriously drafted the civil engineers bill. Now, how this bill, what you are drafting, is different from engineers bill, because we were given few days back in a similar seminar that engineers bill, which has been drafted and pending with the government already. I little elaborate, sir, further on the subject. If you give me 2 minutes.
Sure.
That this engineers bill perhaps includes all disciplines of engineering, and you have very rightly taken only the profession of civil engineering. Now the question comes, sir, what you have given the acts of parliament for different professions. Now these two professions, engineering and medical, first of all, they were regulated by the Act of Parliament or by the Government of India Act in 1935 at that time, and they included the education part as well as the professional part both. Now the medical council, they got it revised in 1956 of the 1935 Act, and all other professional acts, they have come subsequently. So in the country, there is only one act for each profession. Either it is chartered accountants, medical, there are more than 30, 40 disciplines of doctors, but they are regulated by only one. Now, when the profession became unwieldy education, then in 1987, AICT was set up and education part was regulated by AICTE. The qualifications of teacher, the recognition of the engineering colleges, the syllabus. Now, either the Architect Act or the Engineers Act or the Engineer Institution of India have no say in that from 1987 onwards. Now, if we are going for the Civil Engineering Act, do you think the many professions are there, many disciplines are there, engineering itself, mechanical, electrical, right from mining to aeronautics, will it be possible to have different acts for the different professions by the parliament? Or the Engineers Act, what we have, the Institution of Engineers, which is by the Act of Parliament, we don't get amendment into it. What we require, either it is the internship or it is the license. Because this is surprising that only in engineering profession there is no license given. Now all the professions, whether medical, architect, there is a license given for practicing the profession. Now in the Institution of Architect 2018, they have got it amended, and they have made it very elaborate and mandatory that if it is any violation is done to the act, and they are giving the license, they have said license will not be given anybody else other than the Council of the Architects. Now the civil engineers, the license for structural engineer in Mumbai is given by BMC, is regulated by such kind of agencies. So this all has to end. And the architect have made it very compulsory that nobody will be giving the license other than the Council of Architect. And they have put a fine up to 10 lakhs rupees in any violation and 5 years of imprisonment. I was reading the act. So I think, sir, in the institute, this will be very difficult to get a separate act for civil engineers passed by the government. Why don't we work together and work the amendment to the Institution of Engineers and include all that which is already an act with us. I'd like to have your comments, sir, on this.
Okay, I would like to take it up in two different parts. Firstly, Institute of Engineers, I don't think there is an act. It's a royal charter that was formed during the British times. So there is no amendment that can be planned for Institute of Engineers. That's a separate aspect. Now, if you closely look at, see, there is nothing wrong. First, don't take me wrong when I say, I also stress that Professional Engineer Act is a must, which regulates the entire engineering community. All the disciplines of engineering come under that. If you carefully go through that, whatever that is proposed right now, see, they are trying to regulate all the engineers of all the disciplines. So whether they are going to be very specific about any one of the disciplines and regulate them, that's a question that need to be asked only when the council is formed and how they are going to make. Whatever the draft that is presented, it doesn't talk anything about it. But it does talk about regulating the engineers. It does talk about qualified people being registered, and how they are going to implement is something that's going to be done only after the council is formed. That is one part. Secondly, if you closely observe again, civil engineering is the only profession which has overlapping of other professions. As an example, architecture and civil engineering. There is an overlap of same activities are being done. And like you mentioned about the imprisonment, 5-year imprisonment, and 10 lakh. This one, I think you have read it from the proposed amendments that COE is trying to make. It must be in that, because the earlier one, it is very clear that engineers, civil engineers especially, are equally qualified and they can render architectural services. The act itself in its preamble is very clearly defined. Now, coming to why civil engineering? Again, I'm not disputing about the engineers bill. I think it is a must. And most of us, I think all of us, are keeping mum on that, not expressing any of our things or our comments on this particular act, mainly because our earlier history shows whenever engineers start talking, the government puts it in the cold storage. And we don't want that to happen. We want the engineering community to be regulated. No doubt, no two thoughts about that. Let's ask ourselves a question. Why should there be an act? Why should people be regulated? What is the purpose? The main intention of regulating the engineering act, engineering discipline, is to ensure that there is a particular system that's going to be put in place. There is going to be qualified people who are going to be working in that profession. Unqualified people will not be encouraged. They can make a profession. They call them as quacks. And it is illegal to practice medical profession if you are not a medical doctor. As plain and simple as that. Similar thing will come here. And again, if you closely observe, other than civil engineering, in other engineering fields, there is hardly any quackery in that particular fields. Take mechanical, electrical, industrial engineering, or IT, take any of those. They have their own way of qualifying the people, and only qualified people enter there. Whereas in our industry, right from the consultancy stage up to the execution stage, you have all kinds of people. If you go to any site, a person who doesn't know anything about it, who has just learned it from looking at other people doing it, in 6 months' time, he becomes the head mason of that particular place. I'm talking about the construction site itself. And if you just look at the professional aspects of it. A designer, supposing an engineer designs it, there's a particular systematic way in which a design is done and details given for execution. But what's happening? Every Tom, Dick, and Harry on the street, if they are able to put some lines, if they are able to just take some number out of their head and put it in the drawing, there are people accepting it, and nobody stop them, nobody regulate them, because it's accepted. And owners, they would rather go to non-professionals than professionals. Of course, over a period of time, that is changing. Earlier, it was very bad. Now, at least there is some change. But now, as I mentioned earlier, civil engineering is the industry which is contributing to a very large extent towards the growth of the country and towards the economy of the country. If with all these unqualified people, with all these unregulated way of working, there are no two things which are the same. Each one wants to do in a different particular way. And fortunately or unfortunately, our civil engineering structures have inherited energy within them, and the way it is constructed, things will not just fall down just like that. It takes its time. There is a particular way it happens, and people feel very confident. How do we correct these things? Unless somebody is overseeing these activities, unless somebody starts saying, look here, you are not an engineer, you are not qualified, you cannot be giving the designs, or you cannot be executing the works. So unless that kind of a thing comes, it will not happen. And my feeling is, with a huge disciplines, huge number of disciplines that are there, Engineers Bill can monitor the qualification of those engineers and register them. Can they get into each and every discipline and try to monitor that, regulate that, and make sure those particular disciplines are going to be contributing to a larger extent to the growth of the country, to the economy of the country? I have a big question mark, and I have not found an answer for that. And having gone through the rigmarole of how the civil engineering is affecting every step of the way, every element on this earth has some impression or a stamp on it of a civil engineer. There is some contribution somewhere without which those elements would not be existing. When such is the aspect, just think about it. See, even today, I would say that, like I found out some statistics, nearly 95% of the constructions of buildings that are going on in India are in the range of ground plus 3 and below. And even taking 50% of them, about ground plus 1, such buildings are going to be there. All of these buildings are being carried out by masons directly. And even in some places where engineers are giving the designs, engineers might not be involved in the construction, supervising of the construction, because the owners do not want them. They would rather directly handle with this. And how are the construction being conducted? And how is the concrete being mixed? Who are managing those things? Nobody. If a regulation is passed, if an act is passed, I think all of that will change. There'll be a cascading effect on the way construction is done in India. The moment that particular thing is done, the quality is going to start improving, and our contribution to the nation's growth and to the society is going to just quadruple and multiply like nobody's business. That's my personal belief and feeling.
Sir, to add to your clarification, I would like to inform to the participants that there is an for Unani practice, that is Ayurveda, Siddhi, and this homeopathic, there is a separate act called the Indian Medicine Central Council Act that is exclusively for the Unani medicine. And another one is Nursing Council is there specifically for the nursing. And another one is there for the general medicine. So there are three councils as of we know. We don't know about the dental this thing. There may be different this thing also. Please don't generalize that medical is only one. So that is the one clarification I wanted to mention here to the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Srikanth. Yeah.
Okay,
Sir,
Ajit
Sir,
Kumar.
Dr. Sir, can I add one line?
Sir.
Sure, sir.
Sir,
Please.
it is very good that you have taken the right line, because the engineers bill having too many disciplines of engineering, and therefore it is not seeing the light of the day. Let us work for civil engineering, and instead of, I think, civil engineering and construction, if we say, because engineering word when we add, then there are so many disciplines and it will create a problem. Shall we say civil construction bill or civil construction to regulate civil construction in the country? And I will
Okay,
like to associate. I will like to associate with your efforts, sir. And
Yeah,
I offer my personal whatsoever I can contribute in that. And I will like to be definitely associated with it. And let us progress this civil construction, regulating civil construction in the country. And instead of engineers bill, because we are very doubtful it will see the light of the day. And definitely this will be a good effort in that direction.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. Let me give my opinion on this. No way we are going to wind up the engineers bill. None of us should be dreaming of not having the engineers bill. For whatever it is worth it, let us support it. And it is very, very important for the engineering community to be regulated in India. What I am suggesting is, in addition to that, let's work towards the civil engineers bill. In fact, we are not talking about this civil engineers bill, even though in our association corridors, we have been discussing about this almost for 20 years. The first time we mooted this particular thing was when we were given charge of drafting the engineers bill way back in 2003. At that time, when we went through the draft, when we went about drafting the bill, we found a lot of loopholes, and we thought this is not going to help the civil engineering community as such. Definitely, it is going to regulate the engineering community. But what happens after that? Once the bill comes out, are civil engineers going to have anything of their interest being protected by this? Except that civil engineers also going to be considered as part of the engineering community, and they are going to be registered, and they are going to be monitored as to how they are performing. Will it help in any way? We had a doubt. That is the time when we started discussing about this. Why not have a civil engineers bill? What's wrong with that? And we are talking behind the scenes mainly because, like it happened in 2012, we don't want some kind of a discontentment amongst the engineering community for the engineers bill to go back or to go into the cold storage again. And for your information, from whatever information we have, there is a very good chance that this could see the light of the day. When, we also don't know. And see, mainly because this has come from the Prime Minister's office directly. He was the one who actually started this. So if at all engineering community is going to go and put pressure on the Prime Minister himself directly and bring it to his attention, probably his push is going to ensure that it's going to move. So I would say let's not even start this civil engineering the open. We will do all the work at home and we'll keep it with us. Once that is formed, let's find out a way of trying to introduce this also. That's my personal opinion, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Ranganath. Ajit Kumar Mugdam wants to ask a question.
Thank you, sir. Firstly, I would like to congratulate you for the enlightening us about the model civil engineering bill. My question is that as other bills are it takes its own time, even this might take a huge amount of time. But a lot of issues are there in front of us. You mentioned in your presentation that huge investment is coming to the construction industry from the government itself. And because of the quacks in our industry, quality is suffering, durability is suffering, and we are getting a bad name. So what if we, as a civil engineers, we should do on urgent basis?
Sir, whatever we do, it's going to be on individual basis. And I and you changing certain things in some of our sites might not be that effective. So the focus should be on the entire nation, across the country, systems to be implemented, which will make sure, to just give few examples that is running in my mind. If you make sure the workers in the site are going to be certified workers only. If you put in a law that no person who is not certified will not be allowed to work in the site, including the male coolie and the female coolie. Why am I harping upon that? If you go and look at any of the smaller sites that are happening, concrete is being mixed by the lower level labor force. It is the female force which is putting some material. It is the male coolies who are mixing the concrete. And how they mix, how much they put, they have their own system of calculating and putting it. In that system, if one or two extra bundles or more bundles go in, nobody is looking at it. Why is this happening? Because these people don't know what is the implication of that kind of mixing. Hence, whatever they feel others are doing, they also do it. And in case we bring in, of course, in this particular act, what I discussed about, it was only about the professionals, not about the construction industry as such. But I was just trying to give an example. So if you have such a thing, you just imagine, as a consultant, your life is so simple because the guy knows what is M25. The guy knows how to mix. The guy is trained for that. Even the last guy is knowledgeable to some extent, means even the person who carries the material, if they know how to carry, what to carry, how much to put, what to put, if they are just guided and trained, just imagine the kind of quality we can achieve. Imagine the kind of growth we can have. And because of which we'll have the economy growing, and our Prime Minister wants $5 trillion economy by 2025, with the most important contributing, which is projected to contribute nearly 13% by 2025. If at all we can bring it up to say 25% or 30%, just by fine-tuning the working systems, nothing else. We are not doing any magic. So that is the one I'm trying to highlight. So I&U changing might not help to a great extent, but our focus should be on the entire growth of the entire industry. How we do it? Well, it is for all of us to crack our head on.
Okay, I don't see any hands going up as of now, but can I put in some 1 or 2 points of what I feel? Only if Ranganath.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
curious to hear.
One is regarding the necessity of the bill. Nobody is disputing it. One of the reasons why architects are being entrusted the work and engineers are not is the refrain. They are saying that there is no accountability. There is no way we can catch an engineer. Whereas at least if he is an architect, he has a council, he has a monitoring mechanism. So we want to give it to them. So from that point of view, at least we must have a bill so that we can say, yes, we also have a regulatory mechanism. Hence, that argument falls through. That is number one. Number two, I wanted to talk about the necessity of, or rather utilization of engineers. This is happening because the necessity of an engineer is not mandated by anybody. So it's only the whims and fancies of people who may or may not see the value add that an engineer can give. Engineer can save a lot of money, but the owner thinks it as a waste of money to employ or pay the engineer. So the awareness to the house builder community that an engineer can save money for you by avoiding the wastages which are almost to the tune of 30% in the construction field. If an engineer is there, he can save that. That is what we have to educate. That is number 2. And also what is happening, the government is saying that to make engineers presence being mandatory is difficult because the engineers are not trained. They are giving some excuse like that. Luckily, the government, at least in major projects, has now started saying that for X crores and above, the project shall have this many engineers is the rule that they are making. So this at least will make sure that they will have, okay, there may be some of them who are just Namkavasti engineers, but then engineers there shall be. So that will open up floodgates for employment of engineers. Today, what's happening? They are doing 100 crore work with some only 2-3 engineers. This has to go. So this is something that we have to push the government to make it mandatory that, at least in major works, engineers presence and sizable number of engineers presence should be made mandatory. The third thing is about the worker certification. Same story. India is a big country. Huge number of labor are working in huge number of projects. So to make it compulsory is difficult in terms of this thing, and also availability. Who's training the masons? There is nobody who's training the masons for the quantum of people that are required. So there are issues which are different from any European country. Here we are in a very unorganized sector, but the government is definitely trying to do. In fact, one of the most important things that Prime Minister has emphasized from the day he stepped in is about skill development. So once that happens parallelly, of course, that's not happening the way it should have happened by this time. We are already in 2021, and from 2014, we have a skill development department, which is, to say mildly, is absolutely haywire. They're doing nothing systematically. So these are my few points. I'm sorry for taking up some time. Professor Ashwath wants to say something.
No, I just wanted to mention the importance of the skill development. You said in the last words, not doing much, but I closely watched now in the last few months. A lot of initiatives have been initiated by in fact, Karnataka government also on the skill development. And engineers bill, there is no second word, it is required, and a nice presentation by Dr. Ranganath. Dr. Ranganath, I can say in engineers bill, if we can get the engineers bill the light of the day. So good presentation. Not much to comment, just to compliment Bangalore Center for the wonderful work that they are doing in this.
Yeah, it helps to get encouragement from the president. It goes a long way for those who are working for this. Yes, thank you,
Mr. President.
Thank you, sir.
So now that we are around 6:10, may I, and since I don't see any hands going up, may I request HR Girish to kindly sum up and give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Kalgal. Engineer D. Ranganath started his talk by highlighting the broad issues that influence civil engineering professional. He touched upon almost all the problems that we face, starting from the major problems with civil engineering education, be it dilution of syllabus, the lack of quality teachers, innovation and research taking a backseat, skill-based education still to see the light of the day in its magnitude. And then he also made a very pertinent point that government participation in skill development is a must and needs to be highlighted. He went on to the other touchstones of the issues that we are facing today, such as the industry-academy interaction. And he made a very interesting observation that over the next 50 years, in fact, the IT tools play a predominant role. I think he was referring to the skill enhancement in various other allied fields that touch upon civil engineering. And then he also made very startling but factual statistics in telling that when 5 lakh civil engineers roll out every year, it accumulates to not less than about 1.25 crore civil engineers across 25 years, assuming that to be the career lifespan. And also another interesting observation that for every rupee spent, 0.8 rupee of increment in GDP, which highlights the tremendous impact and the direct impact that civil engineering has on the GDP of a country and the growth of a country. The other major issues such as precarious in civil engineering construction, absence of mandatory continuing education, absence of mechanism to fix responsibility amongst the professionals, all these were highlighted, and all these have unfortunately led to lowering of the morale and leading to losing valuable hands to other professions. And the ironic thing that while the chartered accountants have a bill, the nurses have a bill, all other professionals, most of the professionals, albeit being a fraction in number for civil engineering, all of them have a bill. We do not have a bill. He took us on the history of a civil engineering bill when the Barbe Committee was commissioned in 1966 and it made its recommendation in 1970, and how it meandered, and unfortunately now again it has gone back to the cold freezer in MHRD. He shared his very pertinent thoughts about drawing his attention that though we should have definitely a professional engineering bill, he made a very solid case. I think almost all of us agree with him that we should have an exclusive civil engineering bill and why we should be having that bill. He made a very good case. And the fantastic thing is that he also almost presented a civil engineer's bill. It was like a ready-made, well-baked cake, wherein he went into the nitty-gritties of highlighting even very small details like what should be the constitution, about 37 engineers drawn from which areas, where should be the head office, the roles and responsibilities. A fantastic, I would say that it is almost ready to be enacted. And on the whole, excellent, ready to adopt civil engineering bill. And in summation and conclusion, he appealed with all humility to all civil engineering professionals to come forward to contribute so that we can see the light of the day with respect to civil engineers bill. That was all about what Engineer D. Rangnath, spoke about. Over to you, Shrikant Chanalji, for doing the vote of thanks. Engineer Shrikant Chanal.
Yeah, thank you. I thank all the participants.
I would like to add what thanks.
Please, sir. Please, sir.
You remember during the Redecon, we requested the Deputy CM Ashwath Narayan for doing something regarding the skill development, and he has agreed to support ACCI to do some initiative from ACCE. And I was just going the document and presentation. Even now it is not too late. I think now under your leadership, Bangalore Center can take up this initiative and move forward because Deputy CM is also eager to support such initiatives.
Sir, another point I'd like to add to your statement. Dr. Ashwath Narayana is in charge of skill development department now in Karnataka.
Yes,
he was given that portfolio also now.
Yes. And one of the advisor for skill development is also an alumni of BIT. I think if we can take some initiative, things can happen.
Okay, sure, sir. We will take this matter forward. Thanks for the information, and we will start initiation. Dr. Ajit Sabnis also has mentioned some good news in this regard with diploma this stream. So all that is a very good news, I can say, and enhancing the industry and academia, this relation and the curriculum, to make the engineers industry ready is the order of the day, and it is the most important. And in that direction, yes, we are, ready to take that particular task. Having said that, now we have almost come to the end of the series, and now it is only now to act upon. All the planning is done, and with the sword that was now prepared by engineer Rangnath sir has to be now thrown, and it should, we should put that arrow, that to go along with the engineers bill. The civil engineers bill also should go parallelly, and we should insist upon to the AICTE, and as early as possible. I think it is the right thing and it is the right direction that we should take this matter immediately with AICTE and include this bill along with the engineers bill. That is what is my proposal. Anyway, the next week we are going to have this panel discussion in detail about how to take all these issues forward, to discuss all this issue which I am discussing I discussed right now. And I request all the members to think over these lines and how to take this particular issue so that we will be successful in having a regulating body for civil engineering profession. Maybe a degree or diploma, both are to be regulated, and we should have that bill so that we will have a organized sector, and this organized sector structure will result in the quality and the enhancement of professional ethics and conducts and so many other things. With this, I will conclude this vote of thanks with request to all the members to join for the next week with concrete solutions, suggestions, to take this cause forward. And that will be the last one. I request all the members to please be there next week, same time and same platform. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you all. And happy Independence Day.
Thank you.
Happy
Yes,
Independence
thanks, Girish. I also just wanted to mention Happy Independence Day to all the participants and my colleagues. And Srikant,
Sir.
wonderful efforts and wonderful deliberations. Once again, thank you for this excellent conduct of all of this thing. To you and Kalgal, sir, absolutely fantastic effort. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. Happy Independence Day, and great job, Srikant and Kalgal, for a very excellent series.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Ashwath.
Kalgal, sir, as usual, rocking.
Rocking on chair.
Sir, then I will end the meeting.
Yeah, happy Independence Day all. Thank you.
Thank you.